welcome to Colne FC TV as we relaunch a new look Red Army podcast. Joining us this week, we have our newly appointed first team manager, Nathan Rooney, club chairman Ryan Haigh, and diehard Colne supporter, Neil Sharp. Good evening, gents. I hope you're all keeping well during these unprecedented times that we're faced with at the minute.
Evening, Tom.
Hey, Tom.
Now, let's just start with you, Nathan. First of all, welcome to Colne Football Club. You must be really looking forward to getting started.
Obviously, yeah. Of course I am. It's obviously the fall never stops, and the planning's already been done prior to obviously being appointed within the role. So it's a really exciting times, and for me, it was an opportunity to build. It's obviously the foundations and the positive FA Cup runs and the league campaigns over the last few years. There's been a massive foundation built already. So I just felt that this club now was perfect for me in my managerial career, and obviously I want to put every ounce of energy into the club, and hopefully we can get somewhere again this season.
Yeah, then Ryan, thanks very much for joining us this evening. It's fantastic to catch up with you. Whilst there's been a lack of live sport, really, there's been no time for resting the likes of yourself and those behind the scenes at the football club as we move into a new era following Nathan's appointment and securing the services of Chris Kirkland, signalling a real statement of intent moving forward this season.
Yeah, I think we had when the managerial position became vacant with Steve leaving, I think we sat down and decided where we wanted to be as a football club, and there were various options what we had. Obviously, with the COVID-19 situation, it would have been very easy for us to sit still and sit stagnant, and it's something that myself, Martin, we didn't want to do it. You know, we've had a great last 2 or 3 years as I've been in as chairman, and I think it's the time where if we could do were to push it forward. We've made no secret about the stadium, and I'm sure we'll go into what his plans are for that later on. But going through the applications, you know, we had one thing in his mind, and that was to get the best. And as soon as the application were in from Nathan, you know, we went all out for it. We actually do know a lot of the same people without knowing each other, me and Nathan, as it's transpired. So it was very, very easy to get good references off him about him, and learning more about him on a day-by-day basis. You know, I think the fans are in for a treat as we get going.
So Nathan, over years gone by, you've enjoyed some great roles at Fleetwood Town, Crawley, and Carlisle, and I imagine that you've learned a great deal in that amount of time and worked with some great people. Just tell us a bit more about your journey and what you're all about. Yeah,
it's been an eventful 12, 13 years. As I explained to the non-league newspaper yesterday as well, this was my way into the game to try and be successful as much as I can. And from 18, 19, I was around the Blackburn youth team set up, and that was where my coaching started. So I've come through the Blackburn ranks, done all the coaching from all the age groups into the youth setups, and that was the time where Gary Boyer was in charge, and Allardyce was coming to the end of his reign. So you take things from everyone as much as you can, but I just felt from that upbringing at Blackburn, it gave me a really good foundation to then move on to the next journey, which was, I think I was 24 when I went to Fleetwood as the reserve team coach and head of youth. And as you know, when clubs are building, sometimes success doesn't always come straight away. And Fleetwood went through a couple of appointments with different managers, and we ended up, obviously, when I went, it's Graham Alexander from Preston and Burnley, as you know. Brilliant man, really good foundations, and obviously the way he manages his group of players. So I learnt a lot in what I think was only a short 4 or 5 months, but good relationship. That then moved on to Stephen Presley, the Scottish manager, and obviously from him, he was managing at my age as well with the Scottish national team and into his first job at Falkirk. So it was a good time to pick his brains, and he actually moved me up. So that was a chance to be around the first team setup early doors. From there, it was under the German regime of Uwe Rosler. For me, outstanding coach. Someone who you can actually class as a head coach and as a manager. He's your fine example as a head coach. He's the one who he doesn't want to do all the recruiting of players. He sets his profiles out on what he wants from the club, and that's either offered to him or it's not. But his coaching was outstanding, very, very demanding. But I think players respect that in this day and age if the manager believes in what he's delivering. And then took me through a few more appointments. From there, I've gone down south to Crawley to work with Gabriele Cioffi. So a different regime once again, completely Italian style. Everything's 1v1, everything smoking a few Monte Cristos along the way and everything else what goes with it. But no, that was good for me because even though I was number 2, it was my English language. Gabriel was still learning his way with the literature and everything else. And so it was a brilliant balance of management and leading on sessions. But listen, it's like anywhere. We all go through jobs. We all learn along the way. You take what you need and then obviously you disregard what you don't want to hear. So for me, it's a position now where I think someone mentioned it last week, you continue coaching for the next 5-6 years and running around after the managers and delivering what they want you to do. But really, you know when you're at a stage when you're ready to deliver your own way. And gladly, Ryan saw that, and it's now put me in a position to lead the team for the next 2 years as a minimum.
Even away from the coaching role and stuff like that, I've seen that you've done quite a lot of interviews as well. That's how football's moving now, isn't it? With the media. Media's a big part of the sport now, and that's just something that you've just got to do, isn't it?
Of course it is, yeah. But as you can tell, technology is really my strongest point. Even turning a microphone on, yeah. I think the media. It's not always the person trying to put themselves out there. I think a lot of my media's come through doing a lot of seminars overseas and traveling to a few countries, but that's been on behalf of Fleetwood and other clubs that I've worked for. It's not been my own choice. So yeah, you can get your name out just by doing things properly. But in regards to all your little jobs in between, they're more just internships or experiences. I went to Gibraltar when I was going for my air license quite early when I was quite young, and that was a chance to watch obviously some of the national teams play. But that's for a different time. So no, it's been good.
So Sharpie, obviously, don't worry, we're not forgot about you over there.
I'm all right listening. It's good.
From a fan's perspective, just how much are you looking forward to what is in a new era now for Colne Football Club?
Tell you what, I'm just looking forward to football. Full stop. Not just Colne, but yeah, it's been weird, been strange. Obviously, a lot of the fans know your predecessor Nathan Colne very well.
Yeah.
In fact, before Colne, you wouldn't have said they were that much of a fan base up there. You know, it was dregs, it was diehards, and then Colne came in and he kind of changed it really. He boosted all that side of things. We knew him as a player beforehand. I have to admit, I didn't really go up to many games before that. But then when Colne went up, started to go to more games. Developed a bit of a diehard fan base with alongside his family, really.
Yeah.
Who'll be people that will. I mean, I'm pretty sure they'll turn up every now and again, but they're not going to be there as much as they used to be. So there's a nucleus of fans now that frequent behind the goal, which probably ain't going to be there for much longer, which is a bit sad. But yeah, we stand there, cheer them on, do what we can, and we're just looking forward to a bit of football, something to cheer, something to shout about. And it were a bit strange. We're Colne leaving. We knew nothing lasts forever. You know, he brought some really good times to the club. And sometimes, things happen and people just want to move on. And that's obviously what he wanted to do. Good luck to him, and it guaranteed he'll get something somewhere else and expand his career. He's still probably fairly in his infancy in that side of things compared to what we've seen you've done, Nathan. So we're speaking to quite a few of the fans. We feel pretty privileged and lucky that Ryan's managed to find someone of your calibre to replace him. and it's pretty exciting, especially with the backroom staff that you brought back in, or that you brought in, and with bringing Kyle back in. I mean, Kyle was quite a predominant figure in the season just gone. Especially with the FA Cup run and stuff like that. He's quite a character to have around and knows all the players. So yeah, it's really exciting. It's bizarre. It's bizarre being stuck in your house and maybe going up to the club every now and again and not really seeing any football, but hearing about football and wondering what's going to happen, who we're going to bring in, all that type of stuff. So really excited to kind of discover what your style is, who you're going to bring in, what your plan of attack is, what your expectations for the next season is, really.
Okay. Well, obviously there's a transition now in the football club, and obviously it happens to a lot of clubs as we go along, but you can't take away the last 6 years, which has been very, very successful. And I have sent some messages to Colne, and I think that's what you do out of respect and courtesy, because you can learn things from the previous manager, and obviously I can pick the brains of what I need to pick about. And obviously having Cal back in, that was a no-brainer. We did something similar a couple of years ago when I was down south. We brought the old manager back to work on the backroom team, and sometimes it's not always the best move, but when you speak to somebody, you've got that trust. I mean, you listen to the tone of the voice, and they're on board, and there is mutual friends between me and Carl. And someone is quality can obviously, he might have unfinished business, and I'm sure he's got the best wishes from Stephen as well to come back into this role to help the club move again. From my angle, I think this job's right for me, because I want to be able to bring a little bit of both. I want to have that feel of adapting from the league situation. So I don't know how the work's looked in the past, and I would never ever question that, because for me it's in a brilliant position. And obviously it's my job to try and keep the nucleus of the fans, and if not, bring more in and still talk about the past, because the history is a history. That's what keeps the clubs going. All I can do on top of that is bring my way in, and that's obviously respect. I want people to follow what I do. The phone and open lines of communication is always going to be there for every different part of the club. But also it's about the winning. And I would never, ever sit in front of somebody and tell them my style of football until I've stripped the layers back. And for me, until a team knows how to continue to win games, that's when you'll see things unravel. That's when you'll see my way of playing, because you need that pre-season to obviously players to buy into your model as well. But I've come into it a different way this year. It's not my way. It's going to be the club way. And obviously the way I run a club and my values and the way that my staff will speak on behalf of me, that'll be all the way through the club as well, hopefully from a football point of view. But we have to be exciting. We've got to keep the same entertainment which you've had. My way of playing is I'm not always adventurous with the fullbacks. I want to make sure I know, and I've got that feeling that I've won the game first before people enter their playing positions. I won't be playing out from the back for the first parts of the game. You'll see that from the stands. We'll get to a point of the game where all our build-up play will be from the centre of the pitch. And then from there, it's about getting the assets and the special players on the ball. And as time goes on over the next week or so, or the next 10 days, we'll see announcements coming out with players. You'll see players who haven't been at the club before, because I also think that's really important, Sharpie, from not a fresh face point of view, but if people want to keep coming back and forth, sometimes that's just for themselves. For me, I want players to come into the club and see something through. And if that's a league campaign, so be it. If that's a positive run in the cup, brilliant. Or is this a 2-year deal where you're going to actually grow with me, grow with the fan base, and grow with the board of directors? So it's all word of mouth at the moment, and obviously the perception will be from the stands on the first day of season. But we will be exciting, because the time and the effort. If you look at the stats over the last 3-4 years, the team it doesn't concede many goals. You've got a strong nucleus of senior players. We've done, for me at the moment, we're still going through all the agreements, and I think from a senior point of view, we've done really well to keep them types of characters on board. So it's my job not to bring in players who've got bad attitudes or 17-year-olds who just need the opportunity to play, players have to come in and get us over the line. And that's on a wet Tuesday night or it's on a sunny Saturday afternoon. And that's for me as well, by the way, because I've got to adapt. I've got to adapt from the clean 3 o'clock surface in League Two to then come down and make sure that, of course, I want to play football, but I want teams to respect us. And once they get a feel for us, then I'd like to think that teams at times will come off us. Teams will come after us, but that's my job to make sure that the players have the tools to get out of the situations. So, but
tell us more about these special players.
Say that again, Sharpie.
Tell us more about these special players.
Well, we nearly were. I can't say much about it at the moment because things haven't been penciled in. But it's players who, well, if you look at the obviously announcements from what's been on the website already with the players who got the options taken out on them, yeah, they're thereabouts with the club now. With the backroom team that I've said to you, you know straight away with Chris is that's going to enhance the goalkeeping department. That's going to challenge our number one and our number two for the season.
Amazing,
and alongside Steve Petts as well, who's been great for the club. And for me, that's important to keep that type of person in the club, because I don't say you're a part of the furniture, because I think that's a little bit disrespectful. But you know how it's run, and you know what the fans want. And then from the other side of things, I want youth, but I don't want, like I just said, I don't want 18, 17-year-olds who need another opportunity. We'll get to that type of player at the right time of the season. But it's about lads who've been at the level, who roughed it a little bit, who were 22, 23. They've got a family to provide for, but they will work the backsides off week in, week out as well. And I think, what I will say is there's players who will drop down a few divisions, in my opinion, to come to us now. And that's because of our projects and our plans. And we are really putting a lot of time in to get these players down. And it's not because they've earned more money or they've played at the top level. It's about they've scored the goals at this level, but they've also proved themselves higher up as well. But they're ready for a 2-3 year project. And that's how we are recruiting. We need assets for the football club.
One thing you said there with new players, trying to get away from the well, I think this is what you've said anyway, trying to get away from the returning players all the time, and you do seem to see that in non-league and at our level. You have a player, 2-3 players leave the next season, they come back for a little while, and they go again. You see a lot of contract hunting, I suppose. Yeah. And a lot of clubs coming in higher up, banging 7 days on a player, and before you know it, they're not playing anymore. But they've been outstanding for you, and it's quite frustrating from a fan's point of view to watch that sometimes. But you understand it because of the level we're at. Yeah. So it's interesting to hear that that you're thinking that we're going to see fresh faces, and don't get me wrong, the players that that I'm hoping we keep as a nucleus that I hope you're going to be announcing. I wouldn't want to see him anywhere else, but you're hearing noises. You're hearing noises locally. Clitheroe, for example, they seem to be making a lot of noises and a lot of progress in the signings. Yeah. Snapped up one of our previous players. Now, I mean, yeah, good luck to him. Great player for us at the time, but obviously he needed to do something different. But yeah, I'd like to think that we keep. I'm not trying to get anything out of here, but I'm liking to think we keep, Haigh, Pure, Coleman, players like that, who have been there week in, week out, thick and thin, know the club inside out, and are very, very good players as well. But obviously, you need to decide that. They're your decisions, and we'll be behind you. Whatever decisions you make, I promise. Make as much noise as we can, and try and bring it on if we're allowed in the stadium. That is.
No, I think from that angle as well, Sharpie, it's just to reassure everybody. Obviously, like I said earlier when I came in, I asked from my side that I wanted the backroom staff in place first before we made noises anywhere else, and that was just because, like I've just said, that other people will add value in different parts of the club. What I'm not very good at, the backroom team will be good at. What I'm good at, whatever. So we'll complement each other. And then from a senior point of view of the squad, the nucleus of the senior lads will be there. That's what I can tell you. And the reason why I can tell you that is because the senior lads have been on the phone every day. So not just from me talking about them, they're talking about me, about the group. And then that just has a nice knock-on effect to everything else. And we're now in this position. What are we now, Chairman? Are we 4 or 5 weeks for me into the job? And it's the phone is still electric, and that's what I want. I want the players in contact every day. But I can assure you, the next 7-10 days we'll probably be there or thereabout, and you'll know everything. But the last thing on that as well is, if you make too much noise early doors, it gets very boring up to pre-season. So
of course.
we want to now make it exciting, and we want to have that. We want it to come at the right moment when we're all stepping on that pitch together. And we might even be where in pre-season we have a fan day, we have the Q&A at the right time, we have the fans forum, and then you'll be there to see the players for yourselves as well. So we'll get that up and running.
How much do you know about the players? You know, the existing players. How much do you know about them? Have you been in contact with them before? Have you been in contact with them? Obviously on the phone, but have you held any training sessions yet? Are you? You know, have you managed to? Have you watched them play? You know, do you know anything about them technically?
Yeah, well, I've not been around them, as in physically, but yeah, twice a week I'm trying to stick to a regime where I speak to them. But the thing about it, obviously, like I was saying earlier, Tom, in between my jobs in the league, I have held the 2 positions at this level. When I came out of Carlisle in January, I went directly to Lancaster. I know it's a league above, but as you know, everyone's connected in some way. So, and before that, I think we're 2.5 years, 3 years ago, I did a few months at Ramsbottom United as well. And that was through Mark Fell. So, all right, for me, before I put my name into the hat, you've got another level. You've got another players who you know you're going to keep or you want to keep. But that doesn't mean they're on board yet. What that means is they like what they hear. I like what they hear. We've obviously granted the wishes in some areas, but they're in a position now with their career where they've played National League or they've played higher, but now they've got the smell for a project which keeps them and the family secure for 2-3 years, hopefully, if not more. I'm not selling the players on a project. I'm selling on my way of working and obviously how me and that player interact. So we are there or thereabout with the group. From watching them, of course, it's a part of the job. I've obviously got access from some analysts across the leagues and up above, and the Y Scout only just touches the division, so you can't get too much off that. But no, it's the sources, players sending me their own bits. But I think one thing to understand is as well is once you've told the player how it's kind of going to look, they will call you back and they'll tell you if they can fit into that. And then I think from then on, you dig more, you do more research into them, and we have, in my opinion, signed some top characters, and we've got to rough it, and we've got to run, and we've got to outrun every opposition. And we're very lucky at Colne with some of the recruits that we have. They're really, really professional with the fitness side of things. A lot of them are personal trainers. So I don't know if that was lucky or not, or it was a part of the recruitment in the past. But it's one of the reasons why you don't concede a lot of goals, and that's something we will build the team on this year. But that's all I have. Yeah, I can't say I know every ounce about these players, and that's what pre-season is going to be about. They're going to have some fun trips away from the training ground, and we're going to run a real tough regime, but an enjoyable one as well.
Exciting times. Good.
So then over to you now, Ryan. You are still there, aren't you, pal? Somewhere.
No, we're still here.
There's a real degree of excitement for the football club ahead of the new campaign, and rightfully so. Now, since you came to the football club several years ago, you must be really satisfied in terms of the club's progression from when you first took over as chairman.
Yeah, we've, in my opinion, we've built in the right way. You know, I came right at the end of the county league winning season. So the first year in the Evo stick, as it was, and so was get all the way through to the semi-final of the playoffs. I think the following season is when the ideas start to take shape of where we saw ourselves being, not as it might be a little bit out there sometimes, a little bit too ambitious, I've been told, but I saw us as being a more professional than what a non-league club at step 4 would be. I saw opportunities to bring the youth into back into non-league football from the pro game, but I also saw it as the way of funding a football club by moving the players on. So it then becomes more of a job than a hobby, because the player profiling has to be right. The idea of who the player is has to be right. Do they fit in? And people, it's not just a chairman buying into that neither. They buy into that, and the fans have to buy into it. I think we've seen some really exciting seasons. Some really exciting games throughout the last 3 years. And we've took the model of the player. We've been exciting. It's been young, maybe sometimes too young. And I think every little business model has a tweak along the way, and we're tweaking a little bit now. So yeah, from progression to where we've been, I think in 3 years we've now established ourselves as a very good step forward side, one that you'd say is going to be there or thereabouts. And I think everyone's waiting with a little bit of optimism and maybe a little bit of a degree of trepidation of what does the next season bring, and not just from a footballing side. I think you've got the financial side that's had to be taken into consideration, and everyone has to look at that. And we're no different. I feel that and I've said many times, we're a very well, I know I'm going to say it, but we're a very well run football club. Financially behind the scenes, we haven't ever spent outsiders' means. We've never gambled on the success and the future of the football club, and we won't continue to do it. We'll never do that. It's all about running it right and having assets in place. I know Nathan's touched on it, that some of the players we're bringing this year are brought in for 2 reasons. Yeah, they'll do a job now, but secondly, they'll be an asset of the football club. And I'm not, I don't think we're stupid, and we understand where we sit in the football pyramid. We want to sit higher, but until you are higher, you're always going to get picked off, and that's sort of it's our job. We'll bring a player on, we'll enhance them, and look to sell them on until the point where we're the club that's going to take them prospects on, and all our recruitment. You say, how far have you come? I think appointing someone of the calibre of Nathan Rooney, who then brings in a Chris Kirkland, tells you how far we've come. Because these guys, they don't come to step for a standard football club, in my opinion. They come for a club that's got ambition, and we're definitely not lacking in that.
So over to you, Sharpie. Just please tell us more about yourself and what the fans have been up to since the season finished. Yourself and several volunteers have been helping out behind the scenes over at Holthouse, repairing the pitch, other stuff going on there behind the scenes. Just give us a bit of an insight as to what you've been up to.
Yeah, I'm not going to pretend I've been up there every day or anything like that, like a lot of them have. I get up I just get up when I can. I've been working all the way through lockdown, just like quite a lot of other people, but there's a few more people that have been able to spare a lot more time. Headed by Richard. I don't know whether you've met Richard, Nathan.
Yeah.
Quite a character. Yeah, you'll need to get on the right side of him.
We've had a chat.
Yeah, but yeah, headed by Richard and his team of regulars that do a hell of a lot to the ground. I do very, very little compared to most of them up there. So I'm not going to sit here saying, "Oh, I've done this, I've done that." But I've been up a few times. They're laying all the drainage at the moment for the pitch, for the existing pitch, which hopefully we're not going to be using for too much longer at first team level. I'm sure Ryan can tell us a bit more about that at some point. But yeah, they're doing what they can to keep it as good as they can for the players, to reduce injuries, keep the players playing, try not to have too many games called off, all that sort of business. So yeah, they do a sterling job. Other than that, I mean, we've kept in contact. Of course, we have a little bit behind the scenes. So Red Army Fans Forum, we have a little group behind the scenes that regularly talk to each other, see what we can do, but try not to conflict too much with the plans that the club has in place as well, because they're a lot more active now. We're running things like the raffle that's coming up, things like that. Any little bits to try and boost the money in the club, really. I mean, it's got to be difficult, especially now with no fans coming through the gates, and quite a lot. I don't even know. Do you know, Ryan, how many games we've missed out on?
Well, last year.
Or the year that's been squashed.
The year that's been squashed. I think we lost something like nine league games at home, didn't we? I know we didn't play a first team match at home from January the 1st.
Can you give us an idea on the sort of money that we'd lose out on?
We worked it through, because the FA wanted to know every step what every club had done, and when we took into missed revenue, sponsorship that were full, the fact that a stadium sponsor didn't take the option of the third year, now did a stand sponsor, we're in the region of 60, 70 grand of what we lost by not finishing the season. But that's revenue, that's income. Now, there'd have been expenditure on the top of that. So, you probably could have looked at maybe 40 where we've missed out on. And it's a big gap to fill. And like I said earlier, you've got to be a well-run football club to survive. And I think a lot of teams will struggle this coming year.
Yeah, testament to how you've run the club, really, with what sort of a position that we're in. You're being able to bring the likes of Nathan in and things like that, and obviously, I mean, I don't want you to go into it. I don't think you should. Probably not the right time anyway. But he's obviously got a little bit of a budget to be able to use to be able to bring people that he wants in, backroom staff and players that he wants to bring in. So, yeah, credit to you for running the club in that way. And I'd probably like to say that, if this is going to go out to the fans, the fans are going to watch this, and that's why I've asked you the question, Ryan. I just want people to, the fans especially, just to realise what sort of money the club's missed out on, and just to join in on stuff as much as they possibly can. Every little helps, even if it's just £1 raffle ticket. All them little pounds and pences that we bring in are going to make us that little bit stronger, and for you to be able to run the club that little bit better, I reckon.
Yeah, I think we said it two years ago, really, that the idea of the football club is that it had to be self-sufficient, and to do that, it had to have revenue streams and multiple revenue streams. And I don't think you're not an idiot. No one's an idiot. You realise that there's money spent at non-league, and some people do spend above the means. But we always had the idea that I think the support is there. I think the idea of where Colne can be, it's recognised, but I think the fan experience has to be better. We're lucky. We have a very strong junior section, which when me and Kirsty got involved, that were I know we live in Colne, but the junior section we have in kids itself were a massive pull for the football club about what we could do and improve that. So the stadium, the 3G pitch, I think that goes a long way to ticking a number of boxes for us. Yeah, the juniors, you realise that a lot of them play, and yourself, a lot of them don't play up at Old House. They play in the higher facilities elsewhere around the county, and I think that were a big thing to change. Your Saturdays are your big revenue day in non-league. Tuesdays nights, you've got to do them, but they're a third of what you're pulling, and that's if it's a good Tuesday night and a good game. So you can't afford to lose your Saturdays, and I think the 4G pitch will ensure that we don't. But also redoing the stadium and giving us an up-to-date stadium enhances the fans' experience, but also the player experience. We're never going to be at the top pair in the league. We're not going to buy the league. You don't bring in an A licensed pro coach to go and buy the league as well. You expect him to be able to do his job, and that's where we went. We don't have the biggest budget in the league. We never will have, but by having the facilities that are probably better than most when we get there, I'd expect that a player who's worth his salt would want to come and learn off the coach of Nathan's calibre and the ones he's brought in around him, and play in a stadium that's hopefully going to have the atmosphere, but it's going to have the facilities to match our ambitions. And our ambition isn't just to stay at step 4; it's to stay. It's to jump the 3s, the 2s. Where can we go and play? But going back to your original question, your finances play a massive part, and we're only ever going to be as good as what the club fan base is really, and that will determine where our ceiling is. We don't have a ceiling there to say, oh, once we get there, that's it. I think the fan base is going to determine where we eventually level off.
Another quick question on the ground. So we're going to have the new ground, obviously. I'm assuming that we're going to be keeping the existing ground as well for other reasons, for training and or to use as pitches, maybe. I don't know. Is there any plans for reserve teams or like we had the Galaxy League team that we used to have? Do they bring any more money in, or are they a drain?
At this stage where we're at, they're a drain, which is why we cut it. I don't know, probably 18 months ago. With straight away, first thing I did when I came in was lose the reserve team, I think, and then we lost the 18s 18 months ago, and they were a massive drain on resources and also the volunteers around the club. It is something that we'll go back to, but more as the business side of it, and allowing us to take in more players, but giving them an opportunity to play. What that looks like will be down to what the manager is looking for, where we think's best sticking the resources. What do we think we'll get out of it? What players does it help us attract? I think putting a team out for the sake of saying I've got a reserve team and an 18s is, it doesn't make sense. Putting a development side out that's linked to a bit of education, again, along with the stadium, is what we want to do. Does that bring us in something more? At this moment in time, I believe it does. And both Nathan, his assistant, Dave and Kyle, they're all got experience in how the education side and them sort of things work. So that is something where we will end up as and when we've got the facilities. But again, it'll look down to what as a football club we're trying to get out of it. And it's not just, can I give another 14 people a game on a Tuesday night or a Saturday night? It's how do they push the first team?
Yeah.
And I think if they're not pushing the first team, then you have to sit back and say, is there any point in having it?
Yeah, it has to be worthwhile. It has to have a purpose, doesn't it? I suppose.
Yeah, well, absolutely. It's got to be somewhere where your first team players are also going to get something out of going to play. Coming back from injury, from suspension, or just match practice, they've got to get something out of it, and that's where I go back to it. It's then has to be decided on what league that sits in. It has to sit high enough for them to get something out of it, but also at a good level for us to be able to develop, younger prospects as well. So it's a juggling act, and it's something that I'm sure we'll have discussions on in the next few months as we understand where as timescales sit on any development.
So over to you, Nathan. You've probably had time to look at the current squad and assess the situation. Just how happy are you with the squad depth? Are you looking to bring in plenty of fresh faces, or are you generally just how happy are you with the squad that you've got at the moment?
Over the moon, and I think that will obviously, for me, that this week's been a bit calmer because I believe in having permanent members to the team. So I think it gives them that state of mind. It gives you a bit of security in your lifestyle. So we've really put the focus on who we want on a permanent deal, and obviously we can get us through this challenge this year. And then I believe in separating into 3 different areas. So you can have like a young area, which will cost the club a little bit less, but they've got to be good enough to step into that team as well, and obviously challenge for that starting 11. So yeah, last week permanent's done. This week looking at where we can add, where we can support, and which players can come and make that impact on day one of pre-season. So
obviously you spoke about pre-season there. Where are you looking at in terms of obviously the chairman will know probably more than you. Will any clarity on when pre-season perhaps may be getting underway?
Spoken to the lads, spoken to the staff, and spoken to the chairman, and I've put an indication around 11th of July. And the reason for that is whatever happens with the league or the cup competitions, if it's the 3rd week of August, then I still get the correct amount of time at pre-season with the squad. For me, because it's a transition, new manager, new look, you need that time with the lads. But also, I don't want to drag anything out, because I'm a big believer if you extend pre-season for 6, 7, 8 weeks, then you're going to burn out in February. So for me, it's about timing everything right. If another hurdle comes at us with the FA or whatever, I've already got that down planned in case we have to overcome another barrier. But we're looking to give ourselves that good 5-week slot, which leads us into either the FA Cup campaign or the league campaign. But as you know, there's nothing clarified.
Ryan, have you got anything to add to that, mate?
Obviously, we're planning for the same dates. There's nothing come out as yet, so all we can do is be prepared for that third week in August. Everyone knows that at the moment they've sent the National League out on the 4th of August. I'm not sure I see it happening, but they've also got the FA Cup final sat on the 1st of August that's meant to be fan attended. I think a lot of it will depend on how the Premier League and the EFL kick off in the next week or so, and then we'll be on government advice. And it could look different. I think the fan experience could look a little bit different initially up to Christmas. Especially with us, we've been planning on, do we move the bar? Do we have to be an outside bar? How do we make that ground suitable in the short term? So we've planned all that and looked at all that, but the best thing we can do is plan for the same dates until we're told otherwise. You won't want it thrown on you that you're going to kick off and you haven't got your prep in, and there's going to be the issue with the FA Cup. I know there's a Zoom conference or a Microsoft Teams conference that goes on next week with step 6 and 7 or 5 and 6, and I suspect that's around the FA Cup dates. And we all know that the FA Cup is scheduled and contracted to be broadcast in November for the first round. So our level of entry has to be there or thereabouts, because I think the steps 3s and 4s, they're not going to be able to get away with. We're not going to be able to afford not to be in the FA Cup. And I think that'll have a massive bearing, as long as it's safe, about when we kick off.
In terms of pre-season itself, can you provide any clarity as if what sort of teams we may be facing? I know it's a bit early now to obviously this season we faced Chester, didn't we, at Holt House, which was a really good game.
Is that for me? Yeah.
For Ryan and yourself, yeah.
Well, we have planned to. Well, from my angle, we've tried to obviously attract teams who can come to us and support us from that angle. But if it's going to be behind closed doors and things are going to be distant, which we don't know about yet, then we can kind of be clever with the teams that we play anyway. But from attracting the teams above, I have spoken to people I've worked with in the past. We are looking to attract some high-tier teams around the conference and possibly one in League Two. But you never know what team's going to turn up, do you? So it's one of them. You can ask who you want, but it's got to be right for our group. And for me, we've got to do it in stages. So we've got to go tough first. Then we've got to come off it and enjoy playing our football. And then we've got to get competitive again. And then before the week and a half before we go into the league, then we need to have it really rough. So we need to know where we stand as a group. So as it stands, I can't tell you what teams because nobody wants to clarify anything yet. But it'll be a tough one early doors and we'll build it up nicely.
I've got one here for both Ryan and Neil. Just how would you assess the previous campaign? Perhaps a below par finish to the season in terms of league positioning. But let's just talk about that fantastic FA Cup run. The best in the club's history and a run that helped the stability of the football club, I expect.
I said if we're getting knocked out against Gateshead, don't matter whatever else we do in the season, I think we've had a successful season, and I think we did. You can't deny what we did in the FA Cup. it must have brought some money in. I have no idea on the amounts. People will speculate, but I have no idea. But it has to have helped. And yeah, it just happens that the league meant nothing anyway. No one's come top, no one's come bottom. It's null and void. It doesn't really make any difference anyway. So the cup run is all anybody had. And we had a pretty good one. So I would say a successful season from my point of view.
No, I'd agree. I think as we set the season off, the cup run were never a priority. The success we had were unbelievable, and I think you'd love that every season in the FA Cup and the trophy. Yeah, you would. But on one way, it sort of curtailed the season before we even got going. So, looking in hindsight, yeah, it were a perfect year to have a great run. Because, like Neil's just said, the season meant nothing. So, whether we finished top on the 19th of March or whether we were bottom, it was semi-irrelevant. So we had the trips, we had the joy, we had the disappointment of Gateshead, but we'd done so well to get there. And like you say, it's the furthest we'd been in the club's history. So it put us on the map a little bit. So as it stands that way, yeah, it were. I don't. No one's ever going to look back on the 19-2000 season and say, where did you finish in the league? Because they weren't one. So as it stands, it were great.
We have something to remember from that season, don't we? So many teams had nothing. It's just a nothing season for them. We've actually got something out of that season, and we have to be fairly thankful for that, I think. And yeah, I would definitely say it was a successful season.
So now we've reached our fan takeover part of the show. For the next 5 or 10 minutes or so, it's all yours, Neil, to ask Nathan and Ryan anything you or the fans may want to put forward.
Well, I thought I'd done that bit. Hang on. Right, yeah. Nathan, first of all, welcome to the club. I'm pretty sure you've been welcomed by quite a few people, but officially, welcome to the club. Really excited to see what you're going to be doing. I know I've already asked you how much you know about existing players in the squad. Were there any that you knew before Colne? Were there any that you had your eye on? I know you were assistant managers, so I'm assuming you were involved in scouting quite a bit and doing a bit of research on players in lower leagues. Is there anyone that stood out before you came to Colne?
Well, I think before I went down south, obviously I was working with the likes of Brad Knox and Alex Curran. I had them at 2 clubs at Blackburn as well as Fleetwood. So they came along for the journey. Unfortunately, it didn't quite happen for them when it was going to the professional terms. But also with the likes of Bradley Lynch as well, who's obviously been around the club. Great forward, really talented boy. So yeah, it's players that I know about. And obviously, it's my job now to obviously try and attract them players again, or to add to them. You look at the back line. I know Marcus Posher from his crew time. I know Steve Davis. So yeah, there's a conversation that I've already had as well with his son. And then you look through the leagues, and then you look through which players become available. But for me, I'll always go for the ones who I've worked with and I've trusted as well. But yeah, when you're looking down, you can always take like your Alex Currans, who's obviously stepped up to Stockport level, who will go on and have a great career. I'm just a big believer that if you have a group of players with you and they want to develop with you and they want to win with you, if you then go through the leagues yourself with a club and they come with you, then there's nothing saying in 4 or 5 years they follow you to your next club. And I'm not saying that's going to be the case, but I'm saying when you build that follow and you've got the players who follow you and want to work with you, which I have done with some of the lads before, then why not? We develop together. But answering your question, I've worked with a few of them. Matty Makinson at Blackburn, Bradley, Noxie, Curran. They're all lads who've been assets to the club and moved on. And I know other players will be wanted by people I know as well. But it's my job to sell the dream.
I think one of the big questions that probably everyone's going to want to ask, I've probably asked you already. Chris Kirkland, how the hell did you do that?
Best mates for years. Know him through the game, and obviously for the last few years, I know him through Mickey Mellon at Tranmere. But I know I can see the chairman smiling already. It's the missus is very close to him, should we say? He was a goalkeeping coach, obviously at Liverpool Ladies, where my partner's now contracted up for a third season. Obviously, Ryan and the club have also already put tweets out and wishing her best of luck in her football as well. So yeah, it's that relationship, but it's Mickey and other people I've worked with around the leagues as well. But the chairman will tell you, like, I run Chris out of professionalism and say, look, this is what I'm looking for. We have Steve Petts in place, really good goalkeeping coach, but I want to build the goalkeeping department. I don't want to carry two. I want to carry 4s and 6s. And that might answer some of the things about running them development teams, but that's for something in the future. And then within 40 minutes, he ran me back and went, what about me? I said, go on then, you'll do. No problem with that. So he's a man who wants to help first, help anybody, as you know, with his company and sponsorship and ambassador role that he does. But at this moment in time, like other people in their careers, it fits perfectly for him. And that's why it's important to do your work early, because you'll miss out on people.
Yeah, amazing, Q. Well done. Yeah, it's got to only be good. I mean, it's got to help you with pulling players in, the existing players that you're trying to keep. That's got to be. I mean, if you were a goalkeeper at a football club and all of a sudden at this level, and all of a sudden Chris Kirkland came in, I mean, you'd be jumping through hoops for him, wouldn't you? Yeah. So it can only be amazingly good for the club, and well done, and thank you. Yeah. To Ryan now. Just a bit of a guide on stadium timelines, really. What we've been talking about it for many years. Plans have gone in. It's been on, it's been off, it's been on, it's been off, but it looks like it's actually going to happen this time, which is brilliant, and well needed, really. The stadium it has a lot of memories, but it's getting tired. Probably not going to be fit for purpose at some point, with the league probably, and if we're aiming to get a bit higher, trying to get the ground up to spec is probably going to be harder and harder and harder. What sort of timelines are there on the stadium? What we're looking at? Are we obviously it's not going to happen for the beginning of this season, but are we looking at the beginning of next season?
Going back to what you just said about the current stadium, you're right. It's not fit for purpose, and that's been a big stance all the way down the line. And that doesn't matter if you look at it from a junior point of view or a first team point of view. We don't have another promotion in us. Stadium wise, it costs too much money to get us to the next level. So the building a new stadium and a fit for purpose and a modern one, it makes sense. With regard to timelines, well, timelines and finances, we were quite well. Finances first, we were lucky. We've done a lot of work over the last 18 months, and that's not just me. I've got a great team around me. Everyone knows Martin, but you've got Lucy, you've got Kirsty, you've got Chris Price, who's come on board in the last couple of months, and these people know everything around how to go about doing these sort of things. So finances we had in place. We'd gone through all the potential grants that we could get if there were any, and they're not going to stand there and build it for us. But it helps the grant were available. We can claim. But we'd done a lot of work. We had the finances in place. Unfortunately, just before the COVID, we were at the point of submitting the ready for the pre-planning application of where it's going to go. And you said earlier about what happens to the current stadium. The plan is that the new stadium sits just above where the current one is, so it allows us to play whilst building. My biggest fear was ground sharing, because I didn't want to move Colne out of Colne, if that makes sense. And just for revenue purposes, to name one reason, we don't have the biggest income stream, and to remove the gate at the bar it had been disastrous, no matter how short it were. So it sits just above, coming up to back of the Red Army standards where it had finished. And so the plan is, we've been on with the council. We're allowed to sit a virtual planning meeting in the next 3 or 4 weeks, which will get us through pre-planning, hopefully. And there might be a few alterations for what we want and what they want. But like you said, the current ground is tired. You only have to go down to the lighting, and it probably doesn't fit most of the health and safety issues now. So changing the floodlighting straight away is a big tick. Noise pollution we won't have. We're going to have to do a bit of a traffic survey maybe, but we want to make it a 7-day-a-week stadium, and it's all down to youth, the junior section, give them somewhere to play. So to make it open 7 days makes complete sense to us. As for timelines, you know yourself, we've got a wish list. I'd have wanted it up for the start of this season. We're realistic. Martin tells me I've got to be a bit more realistic than what I am. But I do think if everything goes right, we could look at a January, February time to have 80-90% of it down. We're not going to have the bottom stand. Obviously, we can't do anything on the bottom stand. And that the stand I say on the bottom stand is where the Red Army stand is now. But that's going to encompass a lot more hospitality, a reception area, a club shop, the new changing rooms. We can't have that until we've got the other three sides in situ. In situ. But I do think we'll play some sort of football there in this current season. Well, the season 2021. I am hopeful of that. Like I say, you might have Martin on 1 week, Tom, and he might tell you I'm far too optimistic. But I think if you're optimistic, there's always a chance you might hit that goal. So, but I do think we'll kick a ball in that stand.
And is that possible? With does the league allow that? I'm assuming it would be the same. Do you kind of register it as the same stadium, the same pitch, or would you not be? Would you have to play on the same pitch for the full season?
No, it's funny. It's funny you say that. The league rule states that if you start on grass, you have to finish on grass. However, there's been a couple of exceptions to the rule. So we've mentioned that to the league, and they've agreed that if we are done, there's no issue to swap over. And again, I think common sense prevails. If we're going to look to swap over around the January, February time, they're usually the months where you lose a game anyway. So if we've got a fully functional stadium right next door to the existing one, I'm pretty sure that everyone sees common sense and says, well, we've got to move to that. Then have a game called off and try and fit it in midweek somewhere. We're already going to be on a shortened season this year. I think that's non-debatable. I think everyone understands that they're going to try and finish it as quick as they can, and there's going to be a lot of midweek games just to get in.
I've run out of questions, if I'm honest. I've asked plenty. I've got some good insight into what's happening now. Just really excited for the season to start, and I can't wait to hear any more news. That happens. Listening to, like, constantly looking through Twitter and Facebook, see whether anything's happened, any new signs or anything like that. Just one last question to the both of you, really. Is there any imminent signings? Is there any imminent announcements to make?
Well, I go back to something you said earlier, and I know Nathan's touched on it. We've sort of changed models slightly, and Nathan were quite clear in the way he wanted to go and have a number of players permanently signed. And I know you touched on you can lose a player on 7 days, and I think we sort of started off on the route last year that a lot of us as starting 11, 13 were contract based, and that's not changed this year. In fact, we're offering majority that we want to play at the club next year. We're offering them a permanent deal whether it be 1 year or 2 year. So I think we're prepared. We've done a little bit of business already. We're just waiting for ratification from the FA, and then a number of stuff can come out. We've already released who's been retained on options and on re-engagement, and there's a little bit of movement on one or two of them. So I think we're in a strong place. I think the fans will be happy. There's some exciting players to come out, and I think it all bears well for a good season. I'm just the same as you, Neil. I check Twitter every day, every minute of every day. As soon as I pick my phone up, I'm wanting to know what we've done next. So,
yeah. Listen, we'll just keep waiting, and I'm sure whatever happens will be for the good. In Rooney, we trust.
Can't wait to see that flag.
Cheers,
so just a final summary with Nathan and Ryan. Have you got a message for the supporters moving into pre-season, whenever that may be?
Well, just like I've mentioned already to Sharpie, it's about enjoy the transition, enjoy embracing the new faces, because they're the ones who I've sold the club to, so they're on board. It's not we have to sell anything else. Not about the football all the time or myself. It's the club model. It's a project, so I want all the fans to believe in them and know that we will outrun every opposition that we come up against. It'll be embedded in the players, and then obviously, like I've already said, we'll strip the layers back once we know how to win them games, and then you'll be excited with the way that we play that football week in, week out. But also, listen, I understand that transition and change is difficult, so I want the fans to understand as well, which I've said to Sharpie, that open lines of communication. Obviously, when I'm working. When it's time to obviously to sit down, and I'll hold as many Q&A sessions. I'll give as much back to the community. You've got it on record now. I'm happy to deliver sessions to local teams. It's everything. But that's also a part of the backroom team that I brought in as well, because they're very good with the added extras. But yeah, sing loud. Obviously, come in your groups. I understand that change will be difficult in the short term, but obviously foundations being put in place. But it's my job to speed that up and obviously get that attractive football out there. But remember, it's the winning football. So look forward to it.
Me too.
I think from my point of view, it's more. I think for the fans to come and get involved in the dream. You know, as it stands, I'm a Colne fan. So, you know, everything we do is to enhance that football club and enhance the experience of a match day. So it's more. You know, I feel like we're on a bit of a journey. You know, I know I've said it a few times, but you know, you live the dream, don't you? And I think at this moment in time, come and join in and see how much fun we have on the way. And that's how I run the football club. You know, yeah, we're ambitious, but I think you're in here to do the best you can. And I think that's why at times you do what you do. You make decisions because it reflects on where you see yourself. And I go back to it. You're appointing Nathan Rooney for one reason and one reason only, and that's because we want to progress. And I'm as excited as the next guy to see when we kick a ball.
Yeah, can't wait.
Me too.
So a final word from myself to Ryan, Nathan and Sharpie. It's been great speaking to you this evening, and I, for one, am very excited about next season.
Welcome on board, Tom, as well, because obviously we're going to be doing a lot of work behind the scenes as well. So yeah, it's obviously it's all about positive media. It's about getting that out there and just trying to keep a positive environment, because that's the only thing what takes you to the top. And it was interesting to listen to, I don't mind sourcing this, Mickey saying today as well, Mickey Mellon, about his success has come from one thing, and it's about instilling the values from his first job and following that all the way through to the end. So, I mean, the club values and the playing values has got to match everybody else in the area. And obviously we want that to come together as quickly as possible. So yeah, it's appreciate the time, and obviously I'm ready to put the hard work in alongside the backroom team and the board of directors as well.
I think one thing, I think you will see a slightly more open football club as well. I'm not saying we were in the past, but we are looking to do a lot more media. We're looking to shove Nathan in front of a camera a lot more, especially bringing Tom on board. Pre-match interviews, post-match interviews. give the fans a rough idea of what we're thinking and where we are as a club all the way down the line. So we'll leave as much out there as we can and let you know as much as we can as we go along with whether it be football side, business side, or the stadium. I know everyone wants to know as much as what we're doing, so it won't be a closed secret. Everyone will get to know as much as we know.
Cool.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Cheers.
Yeah, thanks for your time.
Yeah, cheers, lads.
See you again. Thank you.
Cheers.